Hello everybody, this is the British Bionic Babe, and today we're going to have a little bit of discussion about something. So as you know, September is Suicide Awareness Month, and I thought it was, what's the word I'm looking for? I thought I should actually have something to say on the topic. Because I myself have struggled with suicidal thoughts, and I've never really pushed myself, or I have never been really motivated to the point where I try to physically off myself. But I have struggled with suicidal thoughts. I have struggled with believing that it's better to die than to live. Yes, I dressed up for y'all. So today I'm gonna give my 2 cents, literally, on suicide and what I think about it, how I overcame it, and if you're somebody that's watching my video and you're in the position that I'm talking about at any point in time, how you can get help and why it's important for you to get help. Now, everybody knows that I'm the British Bionic Babe, and I have gotten that name because I was in a major car accident, and that car accident, you know, left me a little bit not in one piece, and I had to be fixed with a lot of metal, hence the word British Bionic Babe. And I have had some suicidal thoughts because of my accident, but we're going to backtrack a little bit. So I'm the type of person that I maybe have been through all the traumatic experiences that a human being can go through. So we're going to start with the first one. And if you haven't known, now you know. I have had 5 miscarriages, and in my 5 miscarriages I would have had 6 children, which means that I would have had a pair of twins. And that is where my suicidal and my depression started from. My first child would have now been 5 years old. His name is Aiden Carter, and I brought him up to 5.5 months. I was actually 1 week shy of 6 months when I went into labor. And when I went to the hospital, they told me that because he's not 6 months, his lungs is not really developed properly, and so he would die anyways. So I said to him, listen, put him in an incubator and I will, you know, pay whatever I need to pay to ensure that he lives. And the doctor said to me, Miss Clayton, it doesn't make sense I put him in an incubator because we only have 1 incubator, and this was in 2014. They only have 1 incubator, and if my child goes into that incubator and another mother has a child that's more months than my child, they're going to have to take my child out and put that child in the incubator, so my child would die anyways. At that point, I thought that they were not doing everything they could to save my son, and I felt like a failure. I felt like I wasn't doing enough to save his life. And I went into labor, I had my son, and Aiden lived for 7 minutes. And the worst part about it was that when he was born, I actually touched his little hands, and I could, you know, it was formed out. He was literally, you could see that he was a whole human being. And I touched his hands, and he grabbed my hands with his little fingers, and I sat and sang to him, and he died after 7 minutes. And that's where my depression started. And what made that such a depressing thing for me, not only the fact that my doctors killed my child before he was even born, didn't really give him a chance to even live, it's the fact that the person that would have been Aiden's father really zoned in on my mental space, and he wrecked it to a certain point. So I didn't have the support I needed from him, and that added on to the death of my child. And I mourn Aiden every year. Every year that would have been his birthday, I light a candle for him. And they say time heals all wounds. However, I'm still a little bit broken up about losing my son, because anybody that knows me knows that being a mother is my truest heart's desire. And so losing my first son, or losing my first child, was devastating to me. And that's when I started to hate myself for not doing all I can, and it sent me into a state of depression. At that point, I was not really suicidal, but I was really depressed. I didn't feel like I wanted to go on. I didn't feel like I was built to be a mother, because all of this was happening to me. And that was for one man. My other 4 pregnancies was for my last relationship. And listen, if not having a child for somebody was a person, it would be me. So I got pregnant on 4 different occasions for the same person, and all of my pregnancies went up to 4.5 the least, 5.5 the most in terms of months. And it's not like I did the same thing at each time. What happened is that each time I got pregnant, I did something different. I took more days to rest as I learned that I got pregnant. I changed my doctors. I started to take my prenatals early. I started to go to regular doctor visits. So every time that I was pregnant, for that individual, I did something different from the last pregnancy. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'm not doing the same thing and expecting a different result, because that's the meaning of insanity. But what is happening is that every time I got pregnant, I did something a little bit different, something a little bit positively different to help me along with my pregnancy. But they just did not last. And I mean, it was devastating, and it still is devastating. And even in one of my pregnancies, I lost twins. And each pregnancy that I had, it was a boy. It was just a boy. So, you know, I'm destined to have boys, right? I'm destined to grow kings. But after losing so many kids, I became depressed and I became suicidal. And I believe that in the Bible where it says you must be fruitful and multiply, that was just not for me. And then what purpose do I have if not to be somebody's mother, if not to give a child the love that I have inside of me, that no man or no parent or no family member can actually receive? And so, come on me, it's my own video. So the only thing that was so that, you know, it's a whole process, but I was ready for it. Because, you know, like when people normally say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say a lawyer, a doctor, whatever. I wanted to be an educated stay-at-home mother. And so when my kids were old enough and they went to university, at that point, because I was educated, I would have, you know, opened my own small business just to take my mind off of it and prepare for the next holiday for my kids. That's really my heart's desire. But I was not able to do that for myself, and I became suicidal. I thought about different ways of dying. I thought about the grammar zone. I thought about the rope. I thought about slitting my wrist. I thought about inflicting pain on myself so much that I am trying to weed out my inner pain. I thought about those things, but I never got the courage to do it. And through all of that, that's just one set of trauma. I've had a minor stroke twice. And this was while I was in Kingston at University of Technology, Jamaica. My first stroke was when I did and won my very first cheerleading competition at UTech. And I woke up in a neck brace. And I was told that I suffered a minor stroke because I couldn't feel anything on my left side. And 2 years after that stroke, I got a second stroke. And I'm like, listen, what am I doing in life that is pushing me in the direction for all this pain, for all this trauma? What am I not doing, or what am I doing wrong? And I went right back into depression. I went right back into thinking that it's easier if I die rather than to live. And even though I had this thought, I didn't share it with anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I put this facade on that I'm okay, I'm bubbly, I'm nice, I'm good, life is great, I'm living my best life. But late at night when I'm at home and I can't sleep and I look up in the ceiling, all I do is cry. Because tears, they say, is a language that God understands, but I didn't think he understood mine, because he continued in my head. He continued to let me go through these traumatic experiences, and go through these traumatic experiences alone. Because you see, when people are around you and they've never been in the position that you're in, instead of trying to understand what is happening to you and for you to explain what's happening to you, they try to fish for different words and different phrases and hope that that will make you feel better. It does not work. And we're now at the second trauma, right? So we're now at my accident. And you can say my accident is the cherry on top of the cake, right? However, my accident is the trauma that really pushed me to the edge of trying to kill myself. And I tell you why. I'm an independent person. I'm an alpha female. And I don't depend on people for my happiness. I don't depend on people to move from point A to B. I don't depend on people's opinions or suggestions in starting a new business, in doing a new venture, in speaking to somebody, in being with someone. I am strictly independent to the T. And my accident has shown me that I need to slow down, and I need to take a look at what's happening around me and who's happening around me. And I went from completely independent to completely dependent, and I just couldn't deal with that. And I tell people every day, if God forbid and I died in my accident, the story that I would tell God to get into heaven, I would be legit. Because I was celebrating my birthday, I was with people that I love and adored, I was having clean fun, I was responsible. And so when I woke up and I was not able to move, my heart's desire is what came to the first thing to my mind. How am I gonna have a child if I can't walk? Who is gonna love me now? And you keep hearing me say these things over and over, and it's not because that's the worst thing that could happen, because of course I am grateful that I am alive and that I'm here and I can talk to you guys. However, I grew up in a home where I have two parents. I'm one of those lucky people. My parents have been together since my mother was 14 years old and my father was 16. They've been together for 50 years and they've been married for 37 years. That's the type of lifestyle, that's the type of home that I'm grown in. I have never been unfortunate, or is it fortunate, to see my parents even shout at each other, much less have a fight. They may have had a disagreement, but it's never reached a point where they've shouted at each other, or where they've had quarrels with each other, where my mother is going to say she's not going to cook, or my father doesn't come home that day. That has never happened in my home. And so me and my brother are grown in a way where we know unconditional love, and so we cannot expect anything better for our lives than unconditional love, and to raise kids like how my parents have raised us. And so when I woke up from my accident, I'm like, okay, so I can't walk, can't see now because I could see before, can't see, and then who is gonna love me? How am I gonna have a job? How am I gonna now build my house, because all the money I saved is now gonna have to go into my medical bills? What's gonna happen to me? So I was just slowed down to zero, like legit. I was slowed down to zero because I was immobile and I was in pain. And there were nights when I lie on the hospital bed and I thought of ways of how I could off myself. And one of the things I tried to do was to roll myself off the hospital bed, because I'm like, okay, if I roll myself off, if I pull the bed up and then roll myself off and I drop flat on my face, I probably break something and I get internal bleeding, and then by the time they reach me, I'm gone. Because in my head at the time, I was like, it's better that I die than living in pain. And that's what I've always thought through the entire time I was in the hospital. I thought of ways to kill myself, because who would want to live like this? At 33 years old, why would I want to be living with my parents for the rest of my life having no kids, so I'm not getting my heart's desire. Who is gonna love somebody that's paralyzed, or that's, you know, deformed eye or whatever, or blind in one eye? And how am I going to give my parents the ultimate gift of a grandchild if, you know, I'm paralyzed? And how am I going to move forward with all my plans? I was thinking about building on top of my parents' house. I was thinking about, you know, having my own Airbnb. All the plans that I had for myself for 2019 all depended on me having a 9-to-5 job, having mobility, being independent, doing what I needed to do to set the foundation. And I could no longer do that. And even though people came to see me and I was bubbly, it was all a facade. And I really kept up that facade until it became a part of me. Because in my head, I'm like, I'm already in a position where people just don't. They're not used to me like this. They're not used to deana-rae looking swollen up like a mudfish. They're not used to me having one eye. They're not used to me. Listen, I was really in a horrible state, and a lot of people didn't know how to deal with that. And the people that tried to deal with it, as I said, they didn't know what to say, so they just tried to, you know, use different phrases, use different things to say to me, and hope that it actually let me feel better. The only thing that really let me feel better was the fact that I always got pineapple and coconut water and Doritos. But I was not able to sleep when I was in the hospital, and all I thought about was, how am I going to kill myself today? And when I reached home from the hospital, it was the same thing. I had to put on this smile and this strength for my parents, because at the end of the day, in my head, they feed off of my energy. And if I'm sad and crying and they don't know how to help me, that's only going to make them sad and crying. And I need them because I have to depend on them for everything. And so when everybody's sleeping at night, I cried. And I wondered, can I slip and fall? It's better to die than to be in pain. I'm in pain 24/7. Even to roll in my bed from one side to the next, it's pain. And all I want to do is die. I had no reason to live. That's what I was thinking. I had no reason to live. And I found a reason. After everything that I've been through in my entire life, every single trauma that was supposed to kill me, because I was even in an abusive relationship. I was in an abusive relationship to the point where a bed was thrown on me, in a point where I was hit in the face because I provided evidence of cheating. The space in my teeth, that is because of physical abuse in a relationship. I mean, I was hit with an iron board. And I stayed in that relationship because I thought that, you know, people are grown differently. And if you show somebody love enough, then they would realize that, hey, you know, there's something different than what they grew up with. Something more beautiful. But unfortunately, that was not the case. So, I've lost children. I have lost my sense of smell. I've lost my sense of taste. I've lost my mobility. I've now lost one of my eyesight. I've been mentally and verbally abused by another human being. And now I'm at a place where I have to learn to walk again. It's one big recipe for depression. And I was depressed. I was extremely depressed. I believe that for many reasons, I found all the reasons why I shouldn't be alive. If I'm not here, my mother can go ahead and enjoy her retirement. My father can finally retire and start to live his life. I will not be in any pain. The people that probably blame me for my friend's death in the accident, they will probably get some peace of mind knowing that I'm dead too. I found every reason. I said nobody's going to love me or want me or be able to deal with me. Because listen, on a regular basis with no accident, a girl is a whole lot to deal with, right? But I'm a great person. But now that this great person has so many physical limitations and mental limitations, who is gonna really, you know? And when I was asking all these who and what questions, never did I say to myself, God, What lesson are you trying to teach me? What is it that I need to learn? What are you trying to prepare me for? I didn't say that. I thought that God was punishing me. I never once thought that he was preparing me for something greater. He was trying to pull strength out of me because I needed it in order to be greater than what I was in my present time. And so that's probably the reason I didn't get the motivation to actually kill myself. I mean, I went as far as took up a bottle of bleach and had it at my bedside because I was ready to go. I wrote my suicide notes. I wrote my thank yous. I did everything. I was prepared to go, but I didn't do it. And what I did was I cried and I talked to God like he was right there. And when I did that, I felt like something come over me, like somebody hugged me, or like a different air or atmosphere at that time came over me, and I was like, am I going crazy? Or is this, the entrance to dying? Is the Grim Reaper coming for me? And that night when I did that, a spirit said to me, talk to somebody. Tell somebody how you feel. And that's what I did. I told a book. I sat down and I took a book and I just wrote how I felt. And I wrote and I wrote, and the more that I wrote, the more I cried and the more release I got. So I'm saying all of this to say that do not feel that because you have suicidal thoughts, because you're depressed, because you believe that it's better to die than to live, you're alone. You're not alone. You just need to find the courage to talk to somebody. And that somebody may not be a close friend. It may not be a family member. It may be a complete stranger. It may be somebody that has gone through the same situation as you, but you would never know because you don't choose to talk about what's happening to you. All of us at some point in our life has experienced a situation that has led us to suicidal thoughts, or has led us to believe it's better to die than to live. And you're not wrong for saying all of those things. You're not wrong about feeling that way. However, the fact that you have not tried or attempted to kill yourself should be reason enough to let you know that a part of you still believes that you belong here. And we have to realize that we have to be patient with ourselves. We want to feel better. We want to excel. We want to get rid of the depression and the suicidal thoughts. We want to be happy. We want to love life. We want a purpose to live. But it has to come from within here. You have to sit down and take a look at yourself. And what I have tried to do to get rid of my depression, or to get over my depression and my suicidal thoughts, is a number of things. I have started to journal, so I just write down my feelings. You don't have to date it, you don't have to do anything. Just write how you feel. If you believe that nobody will understand, write what you feel. Just continue writing and writing and writing. I also try meditation, and I mean, meditation takes a lot of breathing, it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of consistency, but it works, especially for people that feel or have suicidal thoughts and it comes with anxiety. Anxiety is no joke. Breathing exercises actually helps you with your anxiety, and those are things that you can try. Also, there are suicide helplines that are willing to talk to you. You don't have to, you can be anonymous. You can just talk to somebody. I mean, you would believe that you're alone, but you're not alone. And even though everybody tries to believe that if you have suicidal thoughts, you have some mental instability, ain't nobody saying that you're crazy. Because I'm not crazy. I mean, I can be crazy, a little cray-cray. But I'm not crazy because I have suicidal thoughts. I'm depressed because of all the trauma that I've been through. And the fact that I have nobody that really understands, or I have nobody that's willing to listen to what I'm saying and try to, figure out ways or point me in a direction where they think that I can get some help. What I hate about what people say to me is that if I say, mentally I'm struggling, their response is going to be grateful that you're alive. I don't really care about that at that point. I am grateful that I'm alive. I give thanks every day. However, even though I'm recovering physically, my mental health also has suffered greatly between brain damage, dying and coming back, and not having the mental support that I expected. I had to do everything on my own, and that in itself was one of the hardest tasks I've ever taken on in my 34 years in life. So what I'm trying to say to you, if you're one of those persons that are looking at my video, that are listening to my video, and you're in a place where you're depressed, or you're in a place where you don't think or you don't know that you're depressed, if you have a hard time getting up out of bed, if you have to be fishing for reasons why you need to be alive, if you zone out, if you get angry or irritated at every little thing, if you get anxiety, there are so many things that are happening to us that is a signal that we're actually going down the road of depression. Just know that you're not alone. And please remember that it's always the best choice to live and not die. Not exist, live and not die. Because even though when you die, you're no longer in pain, you're no longer in depression, it's just one money and we get rid of your body. There's a lot of people that you're leaving behind that love and appreciate you. And even though some of them may not be able to show it to you, or they're not being able to say it to you in words, you can look how somebody treats you, how somebody talks to you, and see how they really feel about you. So you may never hear your parents say they love you, but look at the things that they've done, the sacrifices that they've made in order for you to get the things you need in order to progress as an adult. You may have a spouse that they're not so emotional, but look at their actions and see how they're treating you. Is that something, what they're doing, is it of somebody that loves you and cares for you? Or is it somebody of an opportunist that, we're just looking for an easy ride? If you're not able to look at these signs and see if somebody's right for you, or look at the signs in yourself to see, am I really sad or am I really depressed? Then you need to talk to somebody. You can come and talk to me. You can come and talk to me. Because at the end of the day, everybody needs somebody. We would want to think that, we're a whole island by yourself. But we're not. We need at least one person in our lives that can understand what we're going through. Or even that one person that, even if they don't know what to say, they give you a listening ear. And that's really what some of us need. We just need to vent. We just need to vent. Sometimes we just need to sit and look out at the ocean and see the possibilities that lie ahead of us. Because I guarantee you, if you were not meant to live another day, you would not wake up. Do not rush the process of death. I beg you, do not rush the process of death. Be grateful for what you have, and don't dwell on what you don't have. If you want to be sad, if you want to be depressed, be sad. But ensure that you build up the courage to move from that sadness, to move from that depression. Because you may not see it, but somebody on the outside is looking at you as an inspiration. And that in itself is another reason for you to still be here. So that's my 2 cents. At this point in time, I don't have any suicidal thoughts at all. As I said, I journal, I do motivation, and my physiotherapist actually keeps me going, so I don't even have time to be sad. However, there are some moments, there are some nights where I cry to myself. There are some things that, always remind me that I could have been a mother, and I cry about it. And I accept my feelings, but I move on. Because listen, if I wasn't supposed to be here, through all that trauma, a girl would have died a long time ago. So guys, remember, you're not alone in your fight, and your battle can only be won if you want it to be. Okay?